My name is Ryan Pernboom. I'm a senior at UWGB, and I'm here to give a short presentation on the current status of my Honors in the Major project for fall of 2020. So basically, I tasked myself with creating an application for navigating water the same way that you would use Google Maps to navigate the streets. I wanted to create an application that could be used for kayakers and boaters and water enthusiasts, I suppose, just at large. I was kind of inspired by some of my own personal experiences with kayak trips over the years, including a 50-mile, 4-day stint on Lake Superior through the Apostle Islands, and that was pretty exciting. And one of the things that I found myself wanting or wishing that I had at that point was an application that I could use to quickly see where I was, where I wanted to go, plan my routes. So be able to drop markers and plan shortest route in between and see things like water current, speed, or water temperature, some of these things which are kept by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. So the idea was, being that Google Maps was such a reputable, um, well-known interface for navigational apps, that was my sort of initial thought process or initial idea was we probably want to use something Google Maps related. So I started to research the API and put together a sort of starter Google Maps Android project. I ran into a lot of impediments on the way as I kept going. Some of the things I ran into were some interesting quality documentation on Google's part for the Google Maps Android SDK, um, as well as some deprecated features in from various APIs that they've released over the years. They've had some major version changes, and with some of those version changes have come feature deprecations that are not necessarily well documented in all of their available online appendices. So as I was going through and trying to figure out what was going on with Google Maps Android SDK, I found myself often running into documentation information that was essentially outdated and no longer even relevant to the API in its current state. So that created more than a few snags. So let me show you what I have so far for the Google Maps portion. So basically, I created this basic maps activity, and once the map is created, I was trying to draw the location with a get longitude, get latitude from this GPS helper class that I have here. And the GPS helper class does pull the longitude and latitude, but it does not. I have not been able to get the permissions to work correctly with my VM, my Android VM. So that's something I've been trying to overcome. So for now, I've been hard coding the values in for just demonstration purposes for the end of the semester here. So you can see I kind of coded in the current location and the destination values. So when I'm running this application, essentially it drops the markers onto those positions and allows you to, it draws, because those two positions are on the waterway of known as the East River. The idea was that I would sort of hard code values in here for now, but basically what I'm planning on doing is going in and grabbing all of the GPS coordinate limitations on each bank of the East River here as they're documented through the maps, and but I haven't done so yet to be for a reason that I'll explain in a moment. But basically, I'll hard code those I'll put those values in for the limitations of the waterways, and that will allow sort of the shortest path algorithm is the plan to choose the shortest path, which obviously will be a little bit hopefully straighter looking and a little more fluid than this, between the 2 points over within the limitations of those bounds that I will have provided, and should draw a route out, which I've drawn here manually, but I do know how to. So this was learning how to drop the markers, learning how to put information boxes on the markers, learning how to draw the navigational lines in between destinations. So these are some of the things that I was working on. This is, for reference, near my apartment. So this is a waterway that come spring and some more pleasant weather, perhaps, hopefully can get out on the water and actually test this for real once I get the locational services working correctly. So like I said, I ran into a lot of impediments with Google Maps. My plan was initially to overlay this with tiles from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which I was not able to do yet. And when I started to run into some of these impediments, I started to question whether Google Maps was in fact the correct platform for me to be developing this with, or the correct, API to be using, just because it's primarily used for street navigation. They haven't done such a great job of tracking things that are not roads as far as GPS coordinates. Like, you can drop a marker into a body of water and it may give you a relatively close GPS coordinate, but on land somewhere or near a road or something that they have established in Google Maps. So that was one thing that I was running into that kind of pushed me to try something else. And so I went ahead and created a ArcGIS or ArcGIS map application. So I went ahead and started with their basic map activity. I was able to pull up a map that looked more or less exactly like this one, with the the location pulling up where I'd like, and dropping markers and whatnot. But I wanted to take that a step further before giving this presentation, and attempted to go in and find a way to successfully place the NOAA tiles. So they have Google Maps and ArcGIS use what are known as tiles that you can overlay on the map at any point, and that allows you to have different tiles for different zoom levels, right? So basically the idea though is that there's a tile API that I've been using for NOAA that I'm trying to pull in with this, and basically pull the nautical charts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So I'd like to take the nautical charts, and the idea is to draw the tiles onto the canvas. And so when I created all of this, I followed a couple of tutorials on ArcGIS's website. The problem that I ran into was with Gradle packages and just dependencies at large. So ultimately had to spend quite a bit of time working through those, and got that all figured out. And I had some build problems and whatnot, and I was able to resolve all those build problems. But once I got to this point, I thought that I had won, so to speak, and it turned out that my application doesn't really want to run right now in its current state. So it does successfully build, and it attempts to run, but I just get the message that the application continues to stop. So that is the newest impediment that I'm facing. However, I do have all of the code here necessary to overlay an ArcGIS map, an Esri ArcGIS map, with the NOAA tiles that will display the nautical charts. So then when I'll probably pull the bounds of those waterways. So my plan right now is to start with the East River for its obvious close relative location, and I'm going to pull those values from a nautical chart, right? So, and then I can use that to start allowing different paths. And so, the East River, the Fox River, there are a few waterways connected very close to my proximity that will allow me to test the features and expand upon these as I go. So the plan is to start with the East River and then expand to the Fox River if I can have time to do that. And there are NOAA buoys out in the Fox River, so I can pull all the current information and the depth information, water temperature, et cetera, et cetera. And so the idea is, hopefully I would be able to use the current information in correlation with the distance and the path that I'm drawing, and potentially user input as well at some point to decide how long roughly it's going to take to travel different routes over waterways, using things like current speed and direction, and as well as allow perhaps some input variables from the user to sort of signify their skill level with or the sort of average speed, self-proclaimed average speed. So I have some ideas and some calculations I'd like to do, but obviously I need to get this running first. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to work on this project. I've been working pretty closely with my professor Elliot Christensen to get this all sort of up and running and to come up with the idea, and then I kind of pivoted over to the ArcGIS thing, which has led me to have quite a bit of code in two different APIs, and I'm hoping that I can get one of them to accomplish exactly what I'm trying to do with my honors in the major project. So I will continue to push forward on this through most likely the winter break, because I really can't help myself. And then yeah, in the spring I hope to be able to have this functional and begin testing it and really polish up some features and make something unique and exciting. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.